segueing into our next segment, we're bigging up all of the National Honors awardees that happened um, this Monday recently. Um, we really give thanks for the people and just the whole presentation. Things have changed because of the whole COVID thing, and it was more of a visual presentation, not as much as usual, where you actually could go or actually see the people sitting together at a ceremony. So I just want to big up to all the people who was a part of the production. It was very smooth, and it went off pretty well. I enjoyed it. As far as just the fact that the performances, they were, it was nice. It was interspersed. As far as you had some awardees, and you had a performance, and you had a little reading, then you had a presentation. It wasn't boring. Sometimes these things can feel a little boring, but because of this new presentation of it, close to 200 Jamaicans were honored for their exemplary contribution to the development of the nation, and it was a great virtual ceremony, and it was I think it was pulled off well, and I want to just congratulate everyone on from the TV crew to the host and just the government, whoever was behind the production. Big up on yourself. All right, so these recipients, let's talk about quickly. The fourth highest honor, the Order of Merit, was one person got it this year, and that was Professor Orlando Patterson. Celebrated professor, and also 5 equally distinguished Jamaicans were bestowed with the Order of Jamaica, the nation's 5th highest honor. The recipients are Minister of Labour, Social Security, Honorable Carl Samuda, CD, who was recognized for 40 years of distinguished public service, public representation and public policy development. President of the Senate, Honorable Thomas Tavares Finson, for distinguished public service. Brian Winter, for distinguished service to central banking and the financial sector. Olympian Merlene Otti. Big up to Merlene Otti and her family for distinguished contribution in sport, athletics, track and field, both locally and internationally. And of course, banker Patrick Hilton for distinguished contribution to the financial sector and philanthropy. All right. Of course, there was 31 Jamaicans that got the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander, CD. And, let's big up to all the ones. Even just recently, there was a hero. A little girl was trapped in a gully, and some people from the community risked their lives to go in the gully and rescue her. I mean, it made the news. Just to show that we are a heroic nation. Heroes. Them people who rescued the girl wasn't doing it for a award, because they missed the ceremony. Because the ceremony happened already. It happened right after. But what they did was too soon to make the ceremony. But they will have to be awarded next year. But it just goes to show, Jamaicans are heroic, and starting from our first national hero, who I actually feel very honored to call Marcus Mosiah Garvey our first national hero, because he was a hero for the world, for black man internationally. So to know that he came from this small island and made such a great impact on the world, all of our national heroes, all of our black history leaders, all of them would have taken a page out of Marcus Mosiah Garvey's book. So it's good to know that we, like I said, we are a heroic nation. It's not something new to us. So as we roll on into the celebrations and moving forward and looking onward, we will be talking right now to the man himself, Sage the Great Owl, to to talk about, heroism in general and our history of that. What do we call, what do we perceive as a heroic act? Because, to some people here, some people are hero and some people, just get the title hero. So, what do we, who do we consider a hero? So, like I was saying, I was hats off to the virtual presentation of the heroes honors. What I think they know I mess up there. I say that so. The National Heroes Day, the virtual ceremony. I want to say just big up to all the performances. Jermaine Edwards, Stephen Cat Corey, that was a great performance. I felt, he plays that, what's it called? Is that a cello? But him play, I was called the upside down violin. Him play that thing that I like him a sing, brother. Michael Sean Harris, big up yourself, Jamila Falak, Jay Summer and the Outlaws, Rory Barr, Maylin Dillon and the National Dance Theatre Company, CVM, TVJ, Public, PBCJ, JIS, everyone who had a hand in the airing of this. I just want to say congratulations. It was well done, well pulled off. I didn't miss, the ceremony. It felt like it happened live, in my house. So right about now, we're going to be talking to the great All himself as we talk about, the heroes, our heroes now, our heroes then, and, heroes to come. We're encouraging more heroes to continue being spawned. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Yes, I.
Majestic respect as Adenaki.
Yes, I.
Honor to our ancestors, true divine heroes amongst us.
Mm-hmm.
I know Jamaicans, are gifted to have some of the most brilliant people from time immemorial.
Uh-huh.
And even though I guess there are 6 men on the official roster and 1 woman, is that it, right? And that sets a standard in some way to explain our heritage in some symbolic yet human terms. It's symbolic but yet it's human. It's man and woman, you know what I mean? I'm more man than woman, but you get it, right? At least you can say that we have an understanding of symbolic balance between the masculine and the feminine in an impact upon the identity of the generations. And, the national heroes are enshrined in law as the national hero recognized by society, the government, right? Now, we already discussed the type of government, the kind of government we have in Jamaica. Notwithstanding its denotation, its legal place in the world's understanding of what a nation state is. At the same time, identity, is something that is born in a people far beyond its political identity or its political leanings or interpinnings, right? So the government over the years have been smart enough to give the people at least some semblance and representation of the best of who we are. Now, I do think it still steeped too much in an identity that is born from British manipulation of the indigenous people. But leave that for another time and for the understanding of a vast amount of intellect to debate what and what. But I will say this though, I give thanks that this occupational government in its legal construct did present us with 7 figures that represent intrinsically the attitude of our people. Certainly our movement to remove ourselves from the control dynamic of this invader government that we have. Now the state, we know that there are protocols. So I'm not trying to disrespect state protocols, but I think that the hero celebration is so wonderful in that they have included not just the national heroes, but in the concept of heroes like regular human beings who have done meritorious service. And I like the fact that it's not just civil servants or people who have served this occupational government. I like the fact that at least they still have some semblance of what the ancestors were speaking about, because Charles William Gordon being a mulatto or a mixed breed, as they would say, mixed class or whatever, there's some definition to what we call it. He was a champion for the rights of the disenfranchised average Aboriginal Jamaicans, as what we would become to call with the black people in Jamaica, sometimes African, Pan-African viewpoints. But George William Gordon championed the cause of the masses who were constantly being disenfranchised not just in terms of the attitudes. We're not talking about prejudice, we're talking about, the law, was structured, Many people didn't have the right to vote and couldn't own property. And so the church and its religious underpinnings had a lot to do with the formation of the early Jamaican free society, right? In terms of allowing the people who just released from indentureship and, all the horrible conditions they were facing, right? To be given a chance to start owning land, even have access to the right of vote. Paul Bogle did so much, yet people never understood fully the magnitude, of their activities. They gave their life for it, and people think that we are full free. So a lot of people think that the work of Paul Bogle, George William God, Alexander Bustamante, though he's more political Bustamante and Norman Washington Man is more political, but the people still chime for Marcus Mosiah Garvey's Black Liberation Movement and the generation of a self-identity and a full governance that is indigenous and of the law of the land, Their work is not over. So recognizing the regular everyday people, as being heroes, as being contributors to the perception of Jamaican self-identity, to me, has been like the biggest cause the government has done.
Right.
And I'm not gaining anything by saying this other than the sheer pride, I don't know 90% of the people that they're honoring.
No, it's just the fact that are we.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Yeah,
exactly that. I know it's us,
Exactly.
And I know how I view that now, just from the standpoint of a person, just intellectually, not just from me as a Jamaican. I look at the world and I see how they present heroes, right? But my only issue is that some more national heroes being enshrined, because I think the concept of national hero, I mean, what I explain, and I know sometimes people like me or voice might seem to offend some people, but I apologize. Because people say, why you apologize? But I apologize because sometimes, people don't understand a viewpoint that is different can create so much offense.
Right.
You understand me? Miss Louise Bennett Coverley, national hero that man. What you ever try to tell me, sir? What you ever try to tell me, sir? Miss Louise Bennett Coverley, national hero. This was start with. So me have black from me that I never said, Joe Bob Marley. Love Bob Marley, Yeah? National hero too. But yes, let's talk about the foundation of what the postmodernist culture has brought. I'm not talking intellectual, pure here, but an understanding that Jamaica started to fashion a modern identity of this really helped us to appreciate that which was natural. And it made a lot of people not only felt more comfortable speaking Patois, but also felt comfortable with the identity of Patois. The identity there? That's something going to the beauty shop, and then call it the beauty parlor, the postmodernist programming parlor. You fix up your head and fix up your mind, and certain way you fire up your head and fire up your mind. That Patois identity is very organic, very natural. And so, you might say Jamaica is not all that identity, but I will tell you something. It is not ideological, it's just natural. So I think some people are not being honest with themselves, And so when you're honest with yourself, you can understand that Miss Lou is a national hero. And national heroes didn't stop rather in 1979. Was that the last one they called out in 1979? Was that Charlie Thunder out there? Yeah, is that Charlie Thunder?
Right.
Yeah, it shouldn't stop in 1979. So I'm not trying to play smart. I'm just saying that many people have said this. I said enough. So Great Wall is not saying like it's great early genius. I'm just saying that I'm reiterating the point that we got to advance our destiny and the perception of being a Jamaican or Jamaican in this time. We have to really consider the people who in the last 100 years, 40 years, 50 years that have added to that identity. We have to give them a place in our perception. I know sometimes Heroes Week, pass and we just watch the program on TV and, some people feel away because it's just a moment and, it's lost in the greater context of the other 364 days per se, Because again, I was talking about drawing contrast with when I see patriotism in other countries, There's usually other things that bear the name of the heroes of the country, and there's always movements formed by them. But there is the Guardian movement, so I'm not saying that there isn't, And I'm not saying that everything that is within the social construct or within the social culture is political, I know political deep interpinnings, But I'm honored that they recognize Marcus Garvey's contribution, not just talking to the Jamaican people, but the identity. Because the identity is very important. Because many people don't know how you think about yourself, how you appear, as the kind of experience you're going to have, and the kind of experience you're important to your generation. If we have a generation even spanned by half of the information that Bustamante was talking about in terms of us governing ourselves, and understanding the plight of the suffering masses whose concerns should be factored in, not just the intellectual upper class who has the means of resources and the power thereof to dissect the economy and the society, but the people who are integrally interwoven into the fabric of it so that you cannot even separate the society from them. It's like you have some people right and some people back and call themselves, masters, But the burden bearers of the earth are the ones that carry the pain, the hurt. And we are the majority of the population. Hallelujah. So therefore, how could we, not be considered and factored into the identity and in the political direction in our nation takes? So we have to listen more to our people, and some people say, well, the people is saying what the politicians are saying. Isn't that, or is it that they're trying to impress their leaders? The next thing we must consider is that if you want a highly productive society, not just in terms of workforce, but in terms of consciousness, I think you should educate the people. I'm not talking about just in terms of the cultural. I'm talking about in terms of the governmental. They should educate the people fully, because we know that there are always subversive movements. I know that there are very smart politicians out there in Jamaica who understand legally the Constitution has to be really, reworked completely, done away with or amended, create something completely new that factors in us. Yeah, but we know we can't do that if we're not fully free. So we know that our people has to make the decision together. So guess what? I know the smart intellectual politician know that to first lift up the conscience of your people. And it's not just making them African conscious, or as all they say, making them Aboriginal conscious, but it's also improving the environment around them to show that they respect themselves. Self-respect teaches the greatest dignity. So if you respect Bustamante, you start act like Bustamante and not just follow like Contel Pro. You follow the dictates of your people, get that enshrined in law. Be like Norman Manley to argue the plight of the people. Be like the trade unionists who designed a structure of understanding that would give the labor movement a chance to express itself politically to effect a change in the living standards of our people. It's something integral.
I want to touch on something. You say full free. And I know we discussed this, but for the person that's listening for the first time or would have heard Sage, the Great Owl, for the first time, talking about this full free.
Okay, well, most government that were under, most countries, colonies that were under the European system, right, has never been fully freed from the power of the European system. And this isn't just some mere statements, it's a legal and statements, and my understanding of it is purely experiential and intellectual, but it's not based 100% in the didactic law. However, I can say clearly that the property in the landmass Jamaica belongs to the Queen of England, understand me, and her heirs. And the laws of the land are governed under the Scottish Rites Freemasonry and the order of St. Michael and St. George, represented by the Governor General, King Grouth. And I believe, I don't want to miscall his name because I don't want to seem disrespectful.
It's His Excellency, the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Allen.
Sir Patrick Allen, yes, because I do respect protocol. I just really didn't remember his name.
Yeah, man, that's what I mean.
Yes, so we are under that occupational government, set a kind of a caretaker government. It was a constitution that came from the 1866 own colonies constitution drafted up by Eyre and his friends back then, and Trelawney and them. So it was just amended and brought over into 1962's constitution, the constitution. So the old laws of the lords and the barons really do govern the laws to make, and that's why the lawyers are called Queen's Council. And that's why the barrister system and the system of the parliament and who heads the parliament, it's all legal, right? So we, the people of Jamaica, the Tainos, right, that was invaded by British forces, first by Portuguese and Spanish forces in the 1500s, and then by British forces in the 1600s. and since then I've been this British colony, I've not really had a leadership structure that is designed purely from the heritage and culture of the people. And so the heritage and the culture of the people have been subverted for an identity created by our European forebearers. That being said, I am not some kind of angry person throwing arrows at any system. They would say, Jerome, speak clearly. Great Owl, speak clearly. Our heritage, legally, historically, has been born in the kind of nation states and their warfare. That is not upon one man, woman, or child. That's upon nations, right? So our empires were defeated, Moorish empires, right? That had vassal states all over the Western Hemisphere. And so these empires losing their nation state came in under a mercantile system, a law of the sea, rooted in the Magna Carta, drafted under European law, under the English system. And as such, this is what governs our colonies. And the Commonwealth is an identity kind of political terminology and kind of fluid state structure for that colony, for those colonies, right? Right, still apart. And so we in this laws fully, how we constitute our laws, so we cannot just wholly design things without the approval of Britain, and that's why there is the Privy Council as the final court of appeal. So we are not the final adjudicate of our decision, you see. And it's not an apology statement, it's just a statement in law. And this is not an angry retort towards anyone view of themselves in Jamaica. It's just legally what it is. And as such, our movements politically, socially, even culturally towards full speed. So we as Taínos can, create, and I would say people say postmodernist. I don't want to act because I don't know. I'm a social researcher, so I have ideas, but I don't want to speak just right now. But to see us creating the laws, that pertains to us. And we have to redefine the perception and the legal definition of what a human being that is aboriginal, hallelujah, is. Because this black thing it's not human, it's not humane, and legally it cannot relate to living beings, right? Those relate to property, possession and things. And so these things are very integral, as I said, it goes back to the perception of self-identity. So the people who are our national heroes understood these things. Samuel Sharp write down. And though some people are being called slaves when they're indigenous leaders, that's something that has to be reworked in the history books. But our leaders are well educated, our people are so well educated in the higher circles, in the, the lodges and such, that they know this information. I'm not a talebearer because I'm not a part of any lodge filling my guts, This is my life, and I've searched to find this information led by the Spirit of the Most High God, Ghana has been my guide and my protector. Hallelujah. And as such, I speak thus. I respect my people. I respect the heritage of every single Jamaican, Jamaican who has not only contributed by some notable means, but has breathed the air upon this land and has been birthed of the soil. No one can tell me about this without respecting our own, right? So our Maroon nations, have to be respected. All of our 5 indigenous nations have to be respected. And even though the people under the state government of Jamaica bear some property connections to the British Crown, we are chiding, just like Master, this for our liberation, right? For, through the eyes of Rastafari, seeing a liberation, even daring to say God in our own eyes, I guess I relate to that, even though I'm a follower of Yahshua Mashiach, but you still relate to the knowing of how the king relates to heritage and the self-identity of his people, just like the balance of the king and the queen.
The truth is that we all take... Hello? Okay. We all take for representation, you understand? Seeing is believing. So
absolutely,
we are very visual people, especially in the 21st century. And, simply just like even Peter Tosh would have said, no matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're African. Really and truly, not to try to bound anyone to a specific place, but it's really to talk about unity, the oneness. It doesn't make any sense that we're divided based on your complexion, when in fact we are all one. You understand? No matter where you come from, you're an African, meaning that we're all the same thing. You understand? And if you even follow the history of just the human race, you know, you will always see what them call it, fossils or whatever them call it.
Yes.
Pop up in different places. Like me and you, the last time you were here, we spoke about the traveling of the
Aboriginal, the native man, the First Nation, the original people, man and woman across the plain.
Exactly.
But you know, people relate to what is closest to them, and for the last couple of thousands of years, we've known about the earth. Basically, as the way it's been taught to us, in a relative degree, few adjustments, you know. So to speak of history beyond that, people, would be shocked because it's not something that they really know about, but doesn't mean that they're not interested, because the misperception is to think that because people are kept at a certain level of information, that you have somehow subverted their process of knowledge or knowing, or the drive towards knowing, or that knowing towards self-identity. You know, so again, most Jamaicans just know about 1952 and hear vaguely about Marcus Garvey and also about, Norman Washington Manley, Samuel Sharp, and so even the little that we know still at least shows us that there is something about this character that it needs more study.
Yes.
And so if you really do pay more attention, to Queen Grande Nanny, that's my ancestor, hallelujah. You realize that the Moorish Empire here in Jamaica, really kept a very strong, powerful nation state that had dignity of purpose and, first needs. So when we're talking about, these modern identities born out of a broken, self-image, calling us subhuman, and the identity born in the truth of our heritage taught us to respect nature, respect God, respect ourselves, and the kind of truth that we're born in, the kind of struggles that Queen Grande Nanny had, fought to liberate our people, keep our people without signing a treaty with these British colonizers and invaders, and, keep a dignity, a sovereignty of purpose, right? That is bequeathing a true divine seed of nature. We understood the dynamics of the great metaphysics of life. We're not a backward people. We're not a people without rooting, development, our destiny. We've had a destiny. And Queen Nanny, just like, the Maroon Nation were the first to use camouflage, things that have been claimed by, European nation in the modern, Yeah, many countries are claiming that they're the one who invented camouflage, but it's maroon, right?
Yeah, because, the story of the Maroons, the camouflage, the Maroon, them take the camouflage thing to a whole other level, because, you have to understand, say,
No, the Maroons...
British soldiers, they thought they were fighting ghosts.
Yeah, the Maroons invented that. Hallelujah. They didn't take it on another. They invented it. You understand me? Because remember, before they invaded Jamaica, we lived on the coastal areas, right? And when they invaded, we went into the bushes. So it weren't natural for us to live into the mountains. You understand me? So we went inwards, right? And as we went inwards, because it was already our nation, yes, and we developed a means by which we could resist our invaders, right? And so camouflage, putting ourselves in the nature of our environment, as people don't understand that they're connected to even the very earth and the land in the landmass. But then again, that's a statement for another time, but we make reference to it to give honor and glory to our true matriarch, right? So Grande Nanny, right, understood not just the dynamics of running a nation, but also warfare. You understand me? Warfare in the sense of how you defend your people within the understanding of your ancestors being a part of you. That anyone consecrates the land on which your ancestors rest, desecrates the land on which your ancestors rest, desecrates your destiny, right? So your ancestors fight along with you. So to invoke your ancestors is one thing. To understand that the land and you have a cosmological connection is another thing. You're not two separate entities, right? And that is why our metaphysics is being lost, because we think in terms of what we've been programmed, given. Nanny, our great queen, also invented this bulletproof technology way before this modern time, right? Their musket could not penetrate a bulletproof vest made, bulletproof skirting made from the hide of goat. You understand me?
Oh, so that's why them say that they catch the bullet in our bottom.
Listen, as a Nazi, do you know when you study deep into the anthropology of things, you understand that people try to ridicule us greatly.
Right.
But then what we term ridicule, what they call little allegories and fables and little tales, we realize that it is somewhat of a bastardization of actual information. So they say, somewhat there is some truth. If you don't go say it nearly goes on, so we say Jamaica. So when you study deeper, you realize that we are a constructed nation, and it's pretty prompting me because we're talking about Jamaica, but even to say, even all the way to the Americas, there was a great set of nation states that existed 340-92. Hallelujah. And this is not something foreign. This to no one who is well educated in the system. It's just foreign to the mass of the people. That being said, we're not playing superhero. What we're saying is that there's ways for us to grow and understand what our true national heroes were talking about. Right? Because they understood something that has been kept away from the people. The information has been edited, doctored to fit a kind of a postmodernist identity born in this British, colonialist mindset. And some people believing that, someone's really brainwashed. Let me just be honest. Someone's really brainwashed, and they like the well-spoken English vernacular, and they believe that such educated people are really, well-adjusted, human beings, and such they can shed any form of aboriginal identity because it does bore enough glory and honor. You see why I'm saying it's important to talk the truth about our national heroes and how that helps to fashion a nation state in true dignity, because we will not be honored by other people. It cannot teach us to be truly ourselves. That is why there's a breakdown in discipline and the kind of Jamaican cultural psychology, because guess what? An international psychology is filling the void because we are eroding our own psychology. Because if a mother and a father isn't honorable at home, right? How can their children know honor? I'm sitting right here with my wife, and we've been saying this all day. The parents, our elder generation, it's upon us and upon them before us to maintain a standard. The protocol by which our families should grow in. And so we look at our government as the biggest part of our family, as certainly the symbolic portion of our family, to outpicture that for us. And so they are always revolving or in terms of people change who represent them, government. It's still Jamaican, but our national heroes remain a constant symbol. So had some more national heroes and heroines, especially heroines, to the Rasta, get people into an identity where it is not novelty but actuality. It's not something you bring up just in the October weekend and hint at it at the 6th and the 1st of August. You know what I mean after the North. You know what I mean?
Of course. We have to keep them to have to reset the mindset, It's a thing where, we've been charged as the generation that has been what you call that now?
Awakened.
Exactly.
I'm seeking towards awakening. Just like
seeking, right?
Time, you know what I mean?
And them say the wise man know that he knows nothing at all. So we can't reject information at this time, especially when the information becomes what you call now perfectly aligned with our future. We have to, like you said, even with the thing, you start with Miss Lou, and naturally as a student of Edna Manley, Miss Lou is like, my wife, for example, honors Miss Lou to the she bust me upon certain Miss Lou, you understand? And
absolutely
is a thing where when we look into it is that if we don't honor Miss Lou, it's like we're not honoring what we as Jamaicans, because you even laid it out, because the reason why I asked you to point out the whole full free argument is because I want the people to realize that, we've been given certain things and we are put certain places that if we don't understand where we are, then we won't understand what is true. So if we don't understand that we are not full free and that we are we're still functioning in a state that's controlled outside of us, right?
Absolutely.
And we are not then gonna highlight what we now did, which is the patois, which is the culture. That was our as like what I said, that was our influence in this state, this what you call now, this landmass that is, like I said, controlled not by us we brought our culture to the landmass. This landmass is known not for the landmass. This place is known for its culture. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
The reason why Jamaica is big internationally, the reason why we can go anywhere and people revere us is because of the culture, because of the fact, the same Miss Lou, the same Marcus Garvey, the same Bob Marley, the same, you get me? I say it's the same culture that the world can identify with. Because if you're a black man in America, for example, and your heroes are Martin Luther King, for example, Malcolm X would have burned them out and thing. But you now go get a full, have a full, it's basically all that's all like history is what I'm saying. All that pride, all that black pride becomes history because in American history, it happened, the leaders died, and now blacks are trying to, what I would say, assimilate with what is happening in America. Now, when you go hear about a nation now where it's up the emperor of Ethiopia and a nation where is so rebellious to the language, they're rebellious down to the language that they speak, then you basically it's an ongoing, it's like the same thing when you hear about in their history, you can look to a nation for it happening in the now. That's what Rastafari represents to me. Rastafari is the only, my father pointed this out to me, he said, what is the only black movement or the black power movement that didn't die? All of them, with one way or the next, with through infiltration, and don't get me wrong, Rastafari has been infiltrated as well, but through infiltration, they've managed to kill or die down all other black movements. Now, the Black Lives Matter thing is rising up now, you understand? But remember I said before, now, there was nothing, you understand? Black Lives Matter now
it's just a new movement.
Yeah, it's a new movement
it has a lot of imbalances to the greater argument of the complete, Aboriginal family, or i.e. the so-called black family. But even just going back to your point about, Martin Luther King and Malcolm, one of the great things I've come to understand about them. For many years, they championed an identity based upon some kind of postmodernist fashioning of an identity by, like Elijah Muhammad, who got his information from Farad Khan, right? And so, understanding that, Marcus Garvey was more in alignment with Noble Drew Ali that talk about the rights of indigenous people. And so Martin Luther King, right, and Malcolm X, towards the latter end of their lives, started speaking more clearly about Aboriginal rights, more than they started speaking about social political ideation called black, right? And so why that important is because it was an evolution, the true understanding. So now, the point of why Patois, Mr. was important, because it's not just language, it is identity. In the language is the retention of your years of brilliance. And the only thing we had left of that brilliance is our language. So when people was trying to take your language, I'm saying this as an anthropologist, when people are trying to take your language, they're trying to take your root and connection to your ancestry, to your heritage, to what you have done in the past. So when people resist being assimilated into someone else's language, it is because you've lived long enough as a nation, as a people born in identity, and that is what culture is all about. Because you have an identity, you've had a history, you've had an heritage, and your language is the thing that remains. You know why? Because it is born of the evolution of where you come from, how you evolved, your understanding of yourself, the environment. It is so deep, metaphysics cannot master all of its ambits. Neither can psychology, neither can religious thinking. It is so deep. That is why them tell us, say it this way. And I say it that way, yeah.
Right.
That is why. Because they're trying to take your identity and make you into a mock to your ancestors. So the land will revile you. Your own people, hallelujah, will reject you. You understand me? Because you're a misfit. You understand me? This honor will be on merit, beyond measure. To be honorable is to be as those who are like yourself, who are from where you are. That is family. So family is nation state, my brother. So this is the reality. So how could we dishonor our mother and father by a try to go on like say we somebody else. How we somebody else pick me. When I saw mama, papa, granny, uncle, auntie, they teach you morality, discipline, decency, and respect. So who is some guys to come and tell us this is the way we should relate morality? And you might say, well, Jerome, you speak very good. Great Al, you speak very good English. This is diplomatic. Yeah, this is the diplomacy, hallelujah, of the spirit. Because believe me, when I'm in my moment, I chop it. Because I'm quite cognizant of our complete clarity, in our language. Because Patois is ancient Paleolithic Hebrew, understanding, and we know this anthropologically. So, anyhow, that's one another more.
That's one another. But I mean, you know, and it all ties into, you know, who are our heroes? What do we use to classify a hero? We touched on the fact that we love to see when we get the acknowledgement for the action, because to me a hero is a action thing. My hero is always an action person, isn't me? Marcus Garvey go out on the street and preach, and them never like it. Them couldn't get the gathering where them did want to get. And Marcus Garvey didn't give up. Marcus Garvey go out and him watch the preacher. And when I see how the actual preacher, you know, use his voice to bring across a certain feeling. Before, you know, other than the words, you know, he uses the tone of his voice. You know, him go
study emotion.
Yeah, so him go study the thing. And then him come forward again now. That's the next action again. It's like you know, because some people feel like, you know, if you fail, you know, it's not your calling. You know, if you want something, them say if you want it, you know it's have to run. You see me? And that's the next. This is a ode to what we were talking about our culture and our patois and our proverbs and our, you know what I say? Because
of course, it means that with great effort you will achieve your desire.
Exactly.
It won't come to a flimsy desire or hope or dreamed of kind of behavior.
Exactly. And you tell me an English translation or tell me an English proverb that we know that teaches us that. There is none. You understand? Because of our language, like I said, because of the pride of our culture, we put our messages in our proverbs for our people.
Absolutely.
There's a whole. If you look on the proverbs, them, you know, there's no English one that we were taught. We put that in our proverbs to know. Say, all right, we have to teach our people. We have to teach we. You understand? So,
absolutely.
If you want it, you know it's have to run. We'll put that in our culture so that we have that. Me can draw that now up on the radio to explain something. You understand what I say? Because at the end of the day, it wasn't there. It wasn't put in our language, like you were saying, for us to use.
And if the youth them are listening to, that the youth them can overstand. Because we segment things into adults and children, because we have made the family so toxic. We forget that the adults and the children live in the same family.
So
you cannot talk about adult things and think you can hide adult things from children. In the reality, when you and the picnic live in the same
space.
How that you go? When you want to talk about adults and children, you better start talking about family and go learn about family economics. How to rebuild the African, the Aboriginal, indigenous family for future development. Well, present and future. Everything I want. Before I leave off of this network here, we want to give thanks, you know, for the whole essence of our heroes, because Marcus Garvey did start up our first political party in 1923, right? So he even went to the politicization of information that has to do with the governance of the issues of people. And so we have to recognize that he's even the father of our political heritage. And it's not making it about one hero. It's about all the family of Jamaica. So I want to give thanks for the Radio Jamaica family. I want to give thanks for the family of the political parties and the heritage born through the trade union movement. Sir William Grant never became a national hero, but you know we have to make mention of Sir William Grant in terms of how his labor movement helped to bring notoriety to Sir Alexander's charge of, you know, shoot me but set my people free. You know, it is a strong moniker in the upper classes to represent, you know, the kind of middle class, you know, mulatto kind of a, you know, society, but he stood up for the greater masses of people, and so that is the real argument. William Grant was integral in gathering people. Jamaica saw transformation from the 30s onwards, just like the world and the identity of Aboriginal people, so-called black peoples in the West and all over. Our traditions, musically created from Bob Marley right down to currently Usain Bolt, even Jodie and what's her name again? That girl that one day the spelling bee made some inroads, showing that our people. I think her name was Maxwell, right?
Yes,
Jodie and Maxwell made some inroads into the American, the world society. That means that Jamaicans focus, clarified enough from Killer James, focused enough from J.G. Rogers, focused enough from the great writers like Claude McKay up until our times, have been really stalwart, of human expression and experience. So I just want to give thanks to my ancestors who have really been so honorable. And some of them bad like what, but guess what? Because we have warriors, kings in our blood to defend the honor of our people. Some got misguided and went off of the line, but you know what I mean? We have to live still, so we have to give thanks all out. But bless up us to the night and give thanks to the whole Jamaican family and my family, respect for my family, your family.
Yes, and I wanted to say, keep the family strong. Thank you for always, imparting, a little reality into our knowledge as well, because, you when you speak freely, but you speak also as a matter of fact. We're not trying to say that anyone is wrong. We're not trying to say that anyone is brainwashed. We're not trying to say, we're just imparting our what we've understood and what we've comprehended to impart and to basically to encourage the conversation, the dialogue, and the dialogue of reality, because certain things we don't even look at, like even the whole full free. That's why I'm going to kind of make it explain it again, because it blows our mind to think that we are free. We are free, let me just re-say that quickly. Yes, the persons listening, all of my beautiful Culture Classics family, yes, we are free. We individually, yes, we are free, because once you are mentally capable of thinking, you are free. You understand? So don't have it say, when me say full free, and when the great Owl is telling us about, the systematic oppression, that don't mean that we are spiritually oppressed and that we are mentally oppressed and that we are physically oppressed. We are free as individuals. We just have to understand that we're free and don't fall into any kind of teachings what them want to teach you. As I say, we have to free up our own mind, like the great, like our first national hero would say, liberate the minds of men, and ultimately you liberate the bodies of men. Because it's the mind, it's all in the mind. If you tell yourself, say, you're not free, you're not free. But if you tell yourself, say, you're free, you're free. Simple as that. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Finally, brother, just to leave on a point, just to pull up the point where you said. So, though we are free in spirit and in mind to think, now we have to use that freedom of thought to create laws that comes from us, from our experiences, to ensure that our nation state, the land, is given back unto the people to decide now how we shall live our future generation. The resources can benefit our people to remove the poverty and the disenfranchisement of over 90% of our people. That is what we're talking about with full free. That is not just individual freedom, but that individual freedom should now be enshrined as the law, that we can decide for ourselves how we should go forward in time and reality.
Wow, Sila, that's key. That's key right there. Well, I just want to say the great Owl, thank you so much for, like I would say, gracing the stage this morning, and you are always welcome. Anytime we have anything that has to do with our nation, anything that has to do with our people, anything that has to do with our culture, any celebration, anything that you even are promoting, just feel free to just hit me up and stop on by, because it's always a pleasure.
All right, my brother.
Enough respect, and hail up the wife. Tell her I said thanks for sticking it through with us.
Yeah, man. Enough love from Victoria and myself,
All right.
Majestic.
Yes, sir. Every time. That was Sage, the Great Owl, and you don't know, you can check him out on YouTube. You can check him out on IG. You can check him out. Just Google Sage, the Great Owl. You don't know. That's a poet. He's a poet. He's a writer. He's a philanthropist. He's a philosopher. You name it. He's black. He's powerful. He's free. Full free. So big up to all the people that are keeping it locked to Culture Classics 56. Wow, the phone lines are blowing up. Let's have a little conversation.
Brothers like those and ourselves who speak of our ancestors and to brought out light to give us strength to remind ourselves of the truth and the way we are to live. And we are happy for these things when brothers and sisters like that brother there and many others those who gone before who need the work to carry on. Because without those kind of thoughts and minds, the world is at waste and lost. So these leads here by the ancestors that we, the children, have to take it and carry it on. And also, every single person who needs and loves life and loves the true God of creation and our ancestors that bring us freedom in this time that we are living. We still have to appreciate those who still carrying out the work like your guests, your brother that just speak to us. And yourself even who try to highlight us by having a program like this, reason to bring joy and peace in our hearts. And what we are seeing now, they are trying to take away that which our ancestors leave by using the beat of the music, change the original history, to change all what our ancestors have put down on us. You see, because when you look into the situation, music, which is a part of our ancestors, our forefathers like David and Solomon, in the Songs of Solomon, Songs of David, David is his name also. You see, so they are trying to change the music by the beat, by giving us some kind of a music to really break down the morality of our ancestors and trying to share, nothing to share, but to take away this beauty, life, health, and everything. Take away the water, take out the rivers and the seas from us. You understand? Take away our religion from us. Take away the death when we used to go to bury our ancestors, whatever, get them out of life. Whatever disease, take them out of life. They're trying to block out all these things, trying to block out our God, and trying to block out the history of the ancestors and the younger one who are here to push it for the next generation to come. But they cannot do it. All they are trying. All they are trying. I'm on Sakari Selassie, Archie Tomlinson. We try to develop and to bring out sense of humor in our brother and our sister, because we are heading down a destruction road of which, I heard our brother just speak to you a while ago, speak of a lot of it, which is true. And this is what they are trying to take away from us. You understand, especially the pigmentation of people in this world. You see, why they want to do this? Because we are the kings and queens always been, but we never know ourselves as our Marcus, Garvey. Some say he's John the Baptist returning, but he's Marcus, Garvey. You see? So the truth about it, these are rules, laws about the Creator that he left. They want to change it around and give us a beat a beat of feebleness of heart, because you don't, in that beat that they're giving us today, like when you come on your program, you said that you don't want, where you have to play is local music. It is the mother music, father music, the music of joy, the music of when you're down and out. You can pick up one of them and put it on the player and take me your WhatsApp or what they do and listen them and play them. Bring him on one time already. So I'm not mistaken. So, and he really brought out to us some of what we really need. Yes. Coming on the program and to speak history is good. Good for it bring us to our generation to come. What is generation to come? What is generation? A generation is my child, your child, what you got with your wife. I heard you speak about a good night to your wife. Something about when you say this is talk about our history here. What you just call out Mr. Louis Bennett. All these things we have to bring out to our people. Stop the bickering, stop the fighting, stop killing off one another. When you look on the pigmentation, when you look on your brother and you have to kill it, when you have to take a gun and pump in at him because of the same thing that you have done with another man or another woman. So you're going to chop off their neck. In your country, where your black brother dead. You're going to chop off their neck, chop off their hand. And we do the same thing to another person. So these things, when I heard the brother speak, it moved me. You know, and then the brother feel like it is better might want to jump out. You know what I'm saying? But the truth about it, let us continue the history to the younger generation who know not, because the generation needs to say, we come again. When we see the mother and father and sister go down in the grave, we are ball for them and we say, man, because we see when we take up the same rope and carry on. We could take Holy Haile Selassie as an example. We could take Solomon as an example. We could take David and all the ancestors as an example. It is the same face. Because Holy Haile Selassie, God, you know, they are there, domestic people, they are there, but it's in our own, understand? And the same place, Solomon, David, if he never come, how would we know David in this simulation? You see? So they are here, negotiating God, Holy Haile Selassie, God. And the same place, right now, we come right down to Prince Remy and say Holy Haile Selassie, and Prince Bekele Haile Selassie. With the Orthodox teaching this. The language teaching at the Orthodox Church at Maxwell Avenue. For everybody, anywhere you live in the world, go find Orthodox Church and go there. Because when you go there, the language you are learning there, because we chant it down there. We chant it with mixed with English. You understand? We show you the English part and we show you the American, the Greek part. Because I know it's not the me learn it. You understand me? So
I just want to say thank you, RC, because I want to get somebody else on the line.